direct from the web, it's Billy Masters Live. And now, please welcome your host, Billy Masters.
In. Hello, welcome to Billy Masters Live. I am, of course, your host, Billy Masters. And all right, somebody has to put up what the date is because I don't know what day it is if somebody doesn't put it up. Okay, today is Thursday, July 23rd. I actually have no concept of what day it is. The only thing I know is that it's Thursday. And I know it's Thursday because I know I did a show on Tuesday. If it weren't for these shows, I would have absolutely no concept of time. None. For instance, I'm looking and I see there's episode 34, which means this is the 17th week of quarantine. Well, not quarantine, because, I'm out. We'll get to that. It's a pandemic. So 17 weeks that we've been pandemicking. I don't know if that is the word. So, okay, if those of you who are watching the show regularly, you can see there has been a change. I have taken my own advice. I don't know if you remember, on Tuesday, I talked about the fact that I hadn't got my hair cut, I hadn't got new highlights, I hadn't gotten out and tanned because I'm not seeing any people. And so I figured, why bother? Why do I have to take care of myself? And then I thought to myself that, the reason I do those things is not necessarily for other people. I do it because it makes me feel good. So why don't I do something that would make me feel good? So I decided to take that advice. All right. I wasn't even going to share this story. But first, let me just show you, for those of you who don't watch regularly, this is what I looked like on Tuesday's show. It's a lot of hair. I think I cut like 3 pounds of hair off. And there's me today. Look, before. Oh, wait, can I do the head? After. Oh, ooh, spooky. Look at that. I'm aging 3 days before your very eyes. So, but I'm not sure if I should have gone out. Let me just say this. I am not a militant person. I am not one of those people yelling and screaming. I tell you people on here, wear masks, socially distance, wash your hands, have Purell, whatever. But if you do, you do. If you don't, look, it's not my problem. Just stay away from me. I'm happy. However, I now understand why people have guns, because if I had a gun on Tuesday, I may have shot this man. So I'm going to tell you what happened. I mean, it doesn't speak well of me, but what does? So on Tuesday, after the show, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to take my advice. I'm going to get the highlights. I'm going to get the haircut. So Tuesday night, the highlights were done. I always cut the hair after the highlights. And so Wednesday, I decide to go and get my hair cut. Now, you have to wear a mask when you're getting your hair cut. And it's got to be one of those little stupid masks, the paper ones that go just over your ears, because you've got to wear it so that they can cut around it. All I kept thinking is if I wore the big mask, I'd have like a band of hair behind me. So, all right, hairdresser's wearing the mask. I'm wearing the mask. My friend says it doesn't matter. If they had COVID, I'm going to get it. I can live with that. That's fine. I just wanted to have good hair. So I go to the hairdresser. I get the haircut. No problem at all. So easy, so simple. Literally 15 minutes in the salon because buzz and just get out of here. So I leave the salon and I go to my car and I walk over to my car. I unlock the door. I take my mask off. I get in my car. I sit down. I'm about to leave and I see a man walking over towards me. Now, my first thought is, oh, maybe he's one of those homeless people. He's going to want to spray my windshield and I'm going to want to run him over. But he just was kind of trying to get my attention. So then I thought maybe I left something in the hair salon. But I had my cell phone. I had my money. So I didn't know. I rolled down the window and this old man comes over to me and I said, yes. And he says, you should be wearing a mask. Okay. I'm in my car alone. My first thought is, You piece of shit bastard. What is it your business if I'm wearing a mask in my car or not? Come a little closer. Let me cough on you. But he said it in a nice way. And there's no way to say what I just said in a nice way. So I changed my tactic and I smiled because I thought to myself, maybe he's coming from a good place, even though mind your own fucking business. So I smiled. I said, thank you. I know that I had the mask on until I got into my own car alone. And he smiles like I'm crazy and waves and goes away, which got me even more mad. And if he had been behind my car, I might have backed up and just run him over. The point being, mind your business, all of you. I know I have friends that are like the circle of life, and more people have it. You could have it because they could give it to two friends and they could give it to two friends and so on and so forth. But here's what I think. Stay out of my way. Mind your own business. I'm not interested in what you think. That's it. That's my story. But again, here now, here a few days ago. Here now, here a few days ago. Look at that. Okay. Anyway, that's all I have to say to you people today. Next week, we've got such great shows. On Tuesday, we've got Brandon and James. Now, Brandon and James are a singing duo, but one of them plays the cello. I'm not sure if it's Brandon or James. Somebody's playing the cello. Whoever plays the cello had been part of that group. I don't know, two cellos, two guys in a cello. I don't know, with limoncello. It was something about two guys who were gay, who were lovers, who had a cello and played a cello. I think they had been on America's Got Talent. I don't really watch that show. But then they broke up. So then it was one guy, maybe he got possession of the cello, one guy in a cello. But then he dated someone else who sings, who did not play the cello. So now it's Brandon and James and the cello. Anyway, they're going to be on the show Tuesday. They have a new CD out, and they're going to also be playing Provincetown down at the Pilgrim House, I believe, in August. So they're going to be on. And then Thursday's show, next Thursday, is a great show because my dear friend Jerry Mitchell, director, choreographer on Broadway, he created Broadway Bears. I think it's 20 years ago, might be 25. But anyway, it's a huge fundraiser for the Actors Fund. And this year they can't do it because obviously pandemic and you can't be in rooms with other people, especially hot naked people who might sweat on you and give you the coronavirus and an erection all at the same time. So he is doing it online, and we're going to have him on and some of his hot dancer friends. So you're going to want to tune in for that. That's next Tuesday. But today's show makes me so happy because I love this woman. Beth Lapides started UnCabaret in Los Angeles, I think about 25 years ago. And I say that, look, she's looking at me like I'm crazy. But I see you, Beth Lapides. Oh, see, now she's got her hands like this, like she's hanging on my every word. Because, and I say 25 years because she was on the cover of LA Weekly, but who knows? That could have been 5 years ago. I don't know. Anyway, her show is great. And it was really at the forefront of the alternative comedy movement, which when I moved to LA 22 years ago, I scoffed at. I scoffed at Janine Garofalo coming up on stage with a notebook. And now I'm doing this show, and I'm not quite sure where Janine Garofalo is, but Beth Lapides is here right now. Hello, Beth Lapides. She's fixing.
Hey, Billy. Yeah, fixing the backwards.
I know. See, now if we had a before and after of you, we could have shown as well.
We could have, but we don't.
Where are you quarantining, Beth?
I can't disclose my location, Billy.
Well, you're on the West Coast.
Secret.
That's enough,
I am.
Right?
I'm in Los Angeles. As you can see from the, my West Coast light.
Yes, exactly. Now, you and I were together very recently. We were together just before the pandemic. At the farewell to the backlot, Studio One backlot shut down. And it was the first time I had seen you in a bunch of years. So that was an incredible night.
Oh yeah, that was so much fun. Well, that spot has so much There's something about the earth. Let's just go there. The earth has spots the same way you in your body have like acupressure spots that are very like intense spots when you go get acupuncture or something. And there are some places that are very energetic, and that spot is one of them. I mean, so much happened right there. It was the back lot, it was Luna Park, it was
that's right, it was Luna for so many years, right?
I was there, yeah, because on Cabaret, that was one of UnCabaret's early spots. We were there for 7 years of Sundays. And this is such a random fact. This is so off the track, but we have time. The huge cathedrals in Europe were built on these acupressure points of the earth, so that when the singing, as entertainers, when the singing happened in those cathedrals, which are giant echo chambers, and it would go, they were meant to be healing spots for the earth.
Right, the vibrations of the sound.
Yeah. And I think that spot of where the back lot was, I mean, it's being torn down now. And I mean, there's so much I'm in Los Angeles, obviously. I was just being quiet. Yeah.
And I normally am, but obviously.
I know. So, it's like we a little LA juice.
I know, right.
So much of LA is changing. It was changing before, and now we're driving around the streets and things are boarded up and being torn down. And I mean, who knows? I mean, so anyway, that was a great night of celebration it's important to do that. We had the 25th anniversary of UnCabaret at the Theater at the Ace downtown, and
which is such a gorgeous space.
It's incredible. I mean, you just walk in there, and it was the original theater for United Artists, and then for me, because UnCabaret is sort of that. It was a group of artists, coming together to do a different thing, and
what I love about the Ace Hotel is that first off, they kept the theater, which was great. But secondly, is they didn't renovate it to make it a modern space. They just sort of spruced it up, and I say a little, like really a little. Really a little. When I'm in Europe, I'm always going into churches and old theaters. Those are my two favorite things. So going in there is like stepping back in time, literally.
Yeah, and it's such an intimate space. One of the things about UnCabaret, and one reason why we love doing it on Zoom, is it's built to be, it's funny to say a show is built to be, but it was constructed in many ways. The technology of UnCabaret is that it's intimate and conversational. And that is, really what this is right now. This time is called for. And the Theater at the Ace is such an intimate space. Yeah. And that was true of, the Luna Park and I think the back lot too.
Well, let's talk about UnCabaret. When did you start it? How long ago?
Well, it's funny. I'm going to say in a female way, it had people, it's not like a moment. It was inseminated, I'll say, at the Women's Building. And I don't know the date, but there was an art space called the Women's Building. And I was doing a 1-person show there. And I knew it was a scripted show, and they were laughing. You know how you do material sometimes, I'm sure you know this, and it's like, it's not quite as funny as you think it is. I'm not sure.
And you also lose some of that spontaneity. I think some people are better at keeping that.
But I said to the audience, when was the last time you laughed? It's not quite as funny as you think. It's we don't laugh. We're women, and we're artists, and we're lesbians. And if we go to comedy clubs, they just make fun of us. Right. I mean, they were really locked out of the comedy world. And I said to this audience, I'll make you a show. It'll be unhomophobic, unxenophobic, unmisogynist. It'll be the UnCabaret. I don't know where that came from. I had never even been to cabarets. It wasn't my kind of thing. I was like a downtown art girl. And I had been seeing the movie Cabaret with my
and
boyfriend.
It wasn't going to be like that.
With my boyfriend and his boyfriend. It was like an immersive art experience. But anyway, so we did shows there. They lost their funding. We went to Highways, Taylor Negron, Judy Toll, and I did.
Oh, I loved Highways. Yeah, I love going there.
Great, right? So we did a series there, and that was sort of the gestation where it sort of became what it was at the Women's Building. It was just kind of something, we're going to do something, and we're kind of this. And then Highways, it sort of kind of became what it was. And then when Jean-Pierre opened Luna Park and he called me and said, do you want to do something? And that was really where it was born. So I really do like to give those 3 times. Anyway, it was around 27 years ago. I don't know why I, give that long answer, but that's
I love it.
I don't like people to think that like it just started one night, because I think it's so important for creators to understand what a long, it's so frustrating to be, you're writing a script or books, or I know half your audience is probably home taking a break from writing their, the great American, graphic novel or whatever, making their new music CD. And it's just the creativity process is so complicated, and it's in media put out to be so oversimplified. The word creativity means to grow. It doesn't mean to make.
Right.
So, I like to tell that story. And
there's a long gestation period. We talked about the Backlot. I had filmed a talk show pilot there, I guess like 12 or 13 years ago. Mm-hmm. And what we found was that it was going to be too cost prohibitive to do something in a space with a live audience and get people in there all the time. And the production teams were saying to me, why can't you go to people and interview them? And because I come from sort of the stand-up background where I'm used to the audience response, I really was opposed to that, because I thought, it's not going to be as good. Well, fast forward 13 years later, we're in a pandemic. And I said, whether it's as good or not, it's what we have. So just get over yourself and do it. But so people say this show has started maybe 4 months ago, but it probably started 13 years ago.
Yeah, I did a pilot. Same. I did a talk show for MTV that ended up, it was like going, and then they did Tom Green instead, but I'm not bitter.
And where is he today?
We should have him on Cabaret and talk about old times. But we called it The Couch, and it was really, I had been on Politically Incorrect, and I was tired of people coming on and just sort of, and it was meant to be like the green room of Politically Incorrect, where guests were meeting each other for the first time, but we booked them for a reason that they didn't know. Like, oh, Andy Dick, meet this guy who just wrote a book, Act Now, Apologize Later, who's the head of the Sierra Club, and about apology. And it was very hard to book, a lot of, challenging, but it was great and fun. And here we are.
I think that's interesting. What I've thought about this show very often, I will get different guests from different backgrounds. I say, I think this would bring interesting conversations together. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So when you started, how hard was it, since it was new in LA, certainly new in LA, but probably new everywhere? How hard was it to explain to people what they were signing on to do?
That's a great question. It wasn't hard at first, because at first it was just do what you want that you can't do in the clubs. Don't forget that at the clubs at that time, people may not understand what was happening in comedy clubs, and people who are younger or new to comedy. It was so ossified is the only word I can really use, that because people were everyone was trying to get their development deal. Everyone was trying to get their sitcom. So there were these tight tens. You would make this set, and you would do it over and over and over and over again till you got your deal.
And you were using it as a showcase, ultimately.
Yes. And the word showcase, I came from New York, and I was such a purist, and I was like, the showcase, everything's a showcase for something. Of course, in the world, vice president is a showcase for president. I mean, things do work that way. But I'm older now, but younger too. Anyway.
And yet you still look so good in that lighting. Natural lighting is lovely.
Oh, yeah. Here. So anyway, that was at the beginning, and then soon it didn't take that long. So the group was amazing. I mean, it was Dana Gould and Taylor Negron, Bob Odenkirk, David Cross, Jeannie Garofalo, Kathy Griffin, Did I say Dana Gould? Bobcat Goldthwait, Andy Dick, Andy Kindler. I mean, Patton Oswalt, Julia Sweeney. Those are just some of the names off the top of my head. And so,
most of the people you mentioned are not set up punchline people. They are storytellers.
And now, but I mean, they tended to be that anyway. But there wasn't such a thing as really storytelling I mean, there's always been, I don't want to say, I don't want to sound like, oh, Beth thinks she's invented storytelling. I mean, there's always like two strains. Say at the time when there was Catskills, Lenny Bruce, those two strains of comedy have always been there.
Sure.
So it had just gotten kind of lost. And there were people who were great storytellers to begin with, and this just gave them an opportunity. I mean, Julia Sweeney wasn't a stand-up comedian. There was a whole group that kind of came from the groundlings. That was Julia Sweeney and Kathy and Mike McDonald, Tim Bagley, Judy Toll.
Oh, sure. Judy Toll. I loved her.
She kind of brought the groundlings people in, and so that's what sort of happened there. But I'll tell you what happened. So we were kind of struggling along, and I was telling friends, you should come to UnCabaret's, and they'd go, I hate stand-up. It's not like that. Anyway, people started coming and bringing friends, but then they would be coming back the next Sunday. I mean, we were every Sunday. So then it was sort of like, oh, wait, we can't repeat material. Oh, that's what it's about. It's about doing new material. And then doing new material had people bringing notes on stage, and bringing notes on stage and new material meant that sometimes you weren't going as deep as you could into an area. So I would just be in the back, and I just naturally asked a question like, oh, but Billy, you said you were with your parents the other day, and what was that? And so it was a little bit of a talk show, even the stand-upness of it. And it just became super conversational. One of my goals was to make it be so that my friends were as funny in shows as me, and that's how it happened. And so people got that. I mean, the thing I would say to talent was, do the material that you feel like your head is going to explode if you don't do. Mm-hmm. And people got that because they were so limited by what they could do. And these were people who were super advanced careers. I mean, it wasn't like, people that already had done their one-night stands on HBO and had done Saturday Night Live, but there still wasn't a place for them to be that creative. So it was, and I would say that. And then we got this giant, huge above the fold on a Friday in the LA Times piece in the calendar section that was right. I mean, you can get big press, and you can get press that's big and also correct. Sure. And this guy, Chuck Crisafulli, had come not to one show, but for months. He had come to this show, and he understood. And the headline was a new breed of comedy, a new breed of stand-up comics, or something like that. And then it was just a matter of fighting people. And then it was madness. Then it was the other bad thing. First, we couldn't get people in. And then there was the desperation of people who just had to see the hot thing, and they didn't care what it was. And they just were like, had to get in. And then you're like, oh my God. So
what I loved about it was you touched on it, was that there were regulars. And I remember I moved to LA, I guess in 98. And so you were at Luna Park around that time. Mm-hmm. And I remember going several Sundays in a row because I was interested in seeing how it changed and seeing that everyone didn't repeat material, that I got something new. And it was, it's sort of like when you go on a talk show and you have something that happened to you, like my monologue today about going to get my hair cut.
Your hair looks amazing. By the way, it looks amazing. You did a great job.
Thank you. But it's a story. When you do these shows, you have to come up with new things to entertain people. And it's not so much you're trying to find the humor as how you tell a story. If you're a naturally funny person, you're going to have insights versus somebody like Judy Gold, who's naturally funny and filled with rage, is going to tell it a different way.
Right. So there's that. And then there's also, one of the great things about stand-up, and one of the reasons people actually bother to go to a club, is that you're in the net. It's not just that it's new. Yes, it's a new story, but the point of the newness is that it connects us to the now. Mm-hmm. I mean, now, new, same word. I mean, same word. And and that we're connected in the now. It's a spiritual thing. I mean, stand-up is a very spiritual art form. Not to get heavy, but it's about that connection and that energy. And it's about being in that moment with people, that people long for that. That's why people came to see comedy. Is like, that's why people watch it in a club and not on Netflix. I mean, it's great to see comedy on Netflix, but there's I just consider that an education, just, research. Most comedy is very not enjoyable, on Netflix to me. But I watch it because I want to learn and see what people are doing, and I appreciate that it's there. I don't, I'm not denigrating it. It's a great resource. But it's not like
it's funny. You mentioned something about being in the moment, and I was thinking back that when people would watch, say, a Carol Burnett show, when they would laugh, what makes that funniest is that it's real. It is in the moment. This person either flubbed something or is reacting, and the audience is reacting because it's so unexpected to everybody. You couldn't plan it. And that's what Luna Park was. I remember seeing many people come up with things on the spot that eventually became part of either their act or a special, but you saw the germ of it.
And that moment of invention, to be there for it, and not just be there for it, but be part of it. The audience is sort of like, I'm this weird analogy, but I always think of like the comedy audience as a poultice. Like they draw it out of you. You didn't even know, you don't know you're on stage, and you're like, where did that come from? It's the greatest feeling. Like, where did that come from? It just like came through you, and it wouldn't have happened without the audience. And that's why I think it's so tender to sit here and wait for live shows to begin but a conversation with you, or we're doing it. It's in real time, and we're experiencing it together. I mean, I've kept the UnCabaret Zoom because I like that the audience can see each other. I mean, a lot of people can, you can see still who's in the room, and you can't hear the laughing. You can hear my laughing, but it's
and you have a great
laugh. Thank you
too. Well, I should say, during the Backlot show, you and I were standing backstage together, and we were going long, and you're like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to go out and introduce like the next guest or do whatever little thing. But we just had fun backstage laughing at everybody, because I think to be a good host, you also have to be a great audience. And what you did for your people at UnCabaret by asking the questions, you were a vital part in the germination of that idea as well, because you saw something and prodded it even further out of them.
Thank you.
Well, it's
Thank
true.
you. Yeah, I feel that. I mean, it's funny as a woman, I always I love the thing of being a muse. I mean, it's funny to be, sometimes if I get stuck in my own work, I'm like, do that thing you do for other people, for yourself, do it right now. And, so I'm working on, various projects, but I do love the group energy, and I've put a lot of my own energy into making this thing that is bigger than anybody who's part of it, because I love that as an idea that something can exist that doesn't exist unless everybody did it. And, and it's, we always book the shows with an idea of what the wholeness is. It's never a random, a lot of clubs you'll go to, it's just a parade, and you're like, who was the person who said that thing? And I always have tried to keep it be that, this person after that person, they're super different. I always try to book people who are extremely opposite from each other, next to each other, so that the energy is it's an emotional ride.
Somebody just sent us a comment. Kathy O'Donoghue, oh yeah, I remember you asking questions from the back of the room. So
yeah. I stopped doing that later, and I stopped doing that in some of our more recent venues. I think I got, I wanted to keep it moving. Time has changed. It seemed like, when we were starting, I mean, let's talk about this. I mean, in the late 90s, there was not even Sunday night HBO for people to watch. I mean, it was really a different time. And the shows ran longer, and people had the patience for it, because we've gotten so much busier in the past 20 years, and our attention has gotten different. And so the amount of exploration that can happen on stage is a little bit different. I miss it. I mean, it's just, you have to live in the world that you're in, and it's just a little bit of a different world.
Do you work somewhat as a dramaturge? Are you good at seeing something and giving people notes and sort of seeing
Oh
where
yeah.
something could be expanded or where an opportunity is missed?
Yeah. People have hired me to do that.
Yeah,
Sure.
I can see that you'd be great at that. So
Yeah.
how did you start?
I just knew I was going to be an artist, I moved to New York. I didn't even know what that meant, I don't think. I majored at Brown in modes of expression, art, dance, and writing. And,
And look at
and
you now.
modes of expression, art, dance, and writing. I wish more dance. Um, and I just moved to New York. I thought I was going to be a visual artist, really. And my first work in New York was visual. I was a book artist, and I was showing those books in they were successful pretty fast. Like the Metropolitan Museum of Art Library and Barcelona, and
Oh wow.
I showed around downtown New York, and it was fun. But I kind of had this thing. I was living in, the ghetto, and I was thinking, so really what can happen with visual work if you're successful, which I'd never really gotten, was rich people buy it. That's what it is. You
Sure.
sell your work to rich people. And it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And also there was a lot of stuff. And actually the way physical reality is a little hard for me. And I was like, I don't know if this is actually the right career. And then I missed performing, but I knew I didn't want to be a dancer. And then all of a sudden I learned about performance art. And I was like, that's it. That's what I'll do. And I took these little books and I made them into giant books. And I performed in front of them instead of showing them. And those were my first performance art pieces. And I stood in boxes in Washington Square Park and told stories. And
Wow.
and then I became pretty successful as a performance artist, and I got NEA grants for these books, and I became multimedia. And I performed a lot, like at the kitchen, the downtown venues like the Kitchen and PS 122 and Danceteria, clubs and art spaces and theaters downtown New York. And I toured. I toured colleges and arts, Institute of Contemporary Art in London and Boston, and I made a lot of one-person shows,
Did you enjoy that?
Oh, I loved it. I really loved it. And I loved making shows, and I loved the world, and I was so into the world of it. And I had friends doing it, and I just loved it. I really did. I had not one thought of doing anything else. And then it's hard to say exactly. It was like a few things. One is I loved it and I toured, but it's not that big a world, and I thought, so do I just do this like loop every year?
Right. Now I get a new show and I bring it.
And I do this loop. And there was like a more advanced loop that was like Brooklyn Academy of Music. And I wasn't sure how I was going to break into that. It seemed overly, also, they're starting to get a thing like, it's a little pretentious, this art world. This, like, I love art, but I don't know. And then I started getting funny on purpose. And then I was too funny for grants.
Why did you do it on purpose? To amuse yourself?
Well, I'm me. And I mean, I'm always me. And I always also loved comedy. And I remember early memories, besides, the traumatic early memories of early childhood and hospital and the pain, whatever. That's a different show. But I did that show with Judy Gold this week. Guys, go listen to Judy Gold's podcast that I was on.
No, she's been on here a couple of times. It's such a great podcast.
Yeah. But that's like, she does anyway.
Well, again, talk about what a small world. All of us know each other, or we're 1 degree away.
Yeah. So I just thought, Billy, I just always love to laugh. And there was a piece of me that wasn't being answered. I mean, I remember being with my parents in bed watching, the Tonight Show and the comedians and laughing. It was such a happy memory. And I was walking along the street one day in New York. I remember this super clearly. And I thought, here's what life is. You go along, you finally get it, then you die.
Right.
Like, that's either hilarious or horribly tragic. And then I just thought, I don't want it to be tragic. And if it's hilarious, then don't I have some sort of responsibility to actually devote myself to that? And wouldn't it be better? Like, wouldn't it actually be better if I could do everything I'm doing and also be funny? Like, it has a higher value in the world. To actually create laughter, I saw as like almost alchemy, like the creation of gold. If you could be someone who does that, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you be crooked? I was like, oh, it's all very crooked. Why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you do that if you can? Like, why wouldn't you? And I had some ability to. And so while I was still making one-person shows, I started sneaking out to comedy clubs. There was one comedy club in Soho that I felt safe enough in. And I started making my work funnier. And I was really funny for a performance artist to begin with, which was not, I mean.
So the expectations were low. Like, people came in to see a show and they came out laughing.
Yeah, but they got all this other stuff and also kind of laughed, you know, but it's very different in the comedy club. So you take what you think is funny for a performance artist and then you go to a comedy club and it's like, it's kind of funny, you know. But yeah, I remember I was in New York as in some bridge and tunnel gig. I don't remember where. And the club owner pulled me over afterwards and he said, I don't understand. They're sitting in the audience and they're listening to you, but they're not laughing. That never happens. I don't get it. But he kept booking me because it was like a mystery that he wanted to like solve. I kept getting, you know, gigs. And then one day he said to me, I got it. I figured it out. You are in the wrong rhythm. It's like you're in a music club. It's like you're in a rock club, but you're doing jazz. It should be going 1, 2, 1, 2, and you're doing 1, 2, 1, 2, and it's your rhythm. And I thought that's the easiest thing to fix. Oh my God. And I went around New York and I just sort of walked in that rhythm thinking that'll fix it. But of course, that's not just all that it is. But I had all this experience of being on stage by myself. So I knew how to get an audience to listen to me.
And then you didn't have the fear associated with it. I think the biggest thing,
I did have a lot of fear about the laughing stuff, but I just proceeded anyway.
But you were able to get on stage because I think that's the thing that stops so many people who I know are funny. Although, again, as you know, so many people who are funny are great writers and not necessarily great performers. You are fortunate enough to have both. You also taught writing or teach.
I do teach. I do workshop. I've done workshops for years and years, you know, and I love it. I've met so many great people, and you know, my students are out there best-selling authors, and it's so great. I mean, it's very, you know, I have a little mama bear feeling about it. And my classes, I've also some stand-up people and some theater people and some author people. It's great.
And music also plays a big part in UnCabaret.
Now, the addition I mean, we always had interstitial sort of recorded music as bumpers, but when Mitch Kaplan and I started working together, which was about 10 years ago, we were working on my one-person show called 100% Happy 88% of the time. And I had put UnCabaret. I mean, there was just a moment where I was like, I've just given a lot to a lot of other people, and it's time for me to do some other stuff that's not UnCabaret. So I was doing this show, touring it, and then there's a venue that became available to us, and we went to meet, and they had it was like a secret little room in this offbeat corner of downtown. And it was, when you walk into a great room as a performer and you get that little butterfly feeling like, oh my God, it's a great, without seeing one person in it,
you feel
it is, you just feel it. And this was a great room that was being completely underutilized. Nobody knew about it. And they were looking for people, and they hired us they were like, yeah, we want to hire you, which also never happens. It's like to just hire you, you know, it's not a tour gig in LA. And I was like, okay. And I was coming up with all these ideas like, oh, we'll do playtime with this and that. And Mitch said, well, let's do UnCab. And I was like, that show's, I mean,
I already put that away. Right.
Yeah. And I literally said that show's dead to me. And he said, let's just do one just for your birthday. And I was just like, oh, all right. And then there's a little magical part of the story, which it was, I was kind of a hard time in my life. I was moving around. Anyway, and that's, you know, it was kind of a design birth time. And a friend of mine had given me a card that had a picture of hope one way, like a street sign. And I was moving around a lot while I was, transient and getting settled. And I brought this card with me everywhere, though I did say I don't believe in hope. Hope is about the future, and hope is too Hollywood. And I believe in the now. I'm a yogi, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I took this card around just because I needed some sort of encouragement. And we said, all right, we'll do UnCab for Beth's birthday. And we walked out. And we realized that the club was on the corner of First and Hope Street.
Oh,
and
wow.
then Billy, it's more than that. Then we realized that the club was called First and Hope. And it was so magical. And then it was like, well, it's a sign. I mean, it was just like, if you believe in God and you're trying to listen to anything, that's the kind of thing where it's like, I guess I'm doing UnCab again. So we did one, and then Mitch brought music. I mean, Mitch's sensibility. It was a show that lasts this long. You can't last for 27 years now without, perpetual reinvention. And that means bringing in new talent, and that means bringing in new ideas, and that means bringing in new, fresh
life. New life.
Yeah, fresh life. So Mitch it was really amazing to work with Mitch at, bringing it back. And he put together a band, and we had live music, which does raise the vibration. And
absolutely.
It was great. And we had written a song called Change that's about the ways things change. And that became kind of a theme, and that became like the opening number. It wasn't meant to be, but the way I ended up, I'm not a facile singer, so I couldn't learn a new song every Sunday. So it was like, but then it became sort of a thing that people wanted to hear, like a theme song, like change makes you so unhappy, but you have to change to be happy. That's sort of the core idea of that song. It's about clinging and letting go. And that is a lot of what comedy is. It is a lot about looking at, people talk about, self-deprecating comedy. One of the things of self-deprecating comedy is that you're punching up at your ego. It seems sort of less than, but you're really punching up, whether you're punching up at a government or your ego. That's what makes self-deprecating comedy appealing, is that it's a punch up, not a punch down. So, it's all looking at ego and letting go of stuff, and then, bringing in other musical acts. And that became really fun for me to especially in that beautiful room. And
well, since we're talking about musical acts, why don't we bring Mitch Kaplan in? Mitchie.
Hey.
Hi, honey. It's just singing your favorite.
It's been so long since I've sung to you this song. Now you're back in my life again.
Mitchie, I have never left your life, Mitchie. Mitch was with us at the Backlot show. But of course, I've known Mitch forever. Originally met you, I think, through Sandra. Is that true?
Yeah.
Was it through Sandra Bernard? And we just actually, in that gorgeous room, we just saw each other. Where was that? Was that November, right before Thanksgiving or something? Yeah. That beautiful, there's this little boutique hotel that is so nondescript. And you walk into this old, like, speakeasy, but huge theater. Right. What was the name of that? Do you remember?
The Hyena.
Oh, yes, right. And it was a great show. And I think people were just looking around like, what is this show? which is one of my favorite things, to go to any show where the audience doesn't know what to expect. Yeah. And Mitch just always has this grin on his face. Like, the more perplexed an audience is, the happier you seem to be.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, I don't know.
So, Mitchie, how did you first meet Beth?
We had a mutual friend named Clifford Bell, who one day said to Beth, I think you should have music in your show 100% happy 88% of the time. And let me introduce you to my friend Mitch Kaplan. He's worked for years with Sandra Bernhard.
And everybody, not just Sandra.
Yeah. And that's how we met. We hit it off immediately and had an amazing connection. And we worked on that show together, and then I got her to bring UnCab back, which is amazing, and it's been so much fun.
I told the story of how I said dead to me, and you were like, let's just do one.
Oh, Mitchie has been backstage watching, so he knows.
But it was the first show. I have to tell you, Billy, the first show was so weird and eclectic, which made it crazy. We had Margaret Cho was one of the guests.
Oh, sure.
And we invited a friend of mine, Florence LaRue, who was in the Fifth Dimension.
Right. And
she sang a Fifth Dimension song on the same show as Margaret Cho. So it was just completely out there. And
also, I think, Mitch, wasn't it true that was the show where Margaret was showing the tattoo on her ass and Florence LaRue was sitting in the audience just like, what is happening?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, it's so much fun. Oh my God.
And that's sort of, there is sort of a burlesque atmosphere because again, it's variety. It's actually more than burlesque. It's variety as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you like working in that kind of unstructured chaos?
I do.
You can create something new every week, I suppose.
Yeah. And I'm fortunate that I've met a lot of people and collaborators that like to work that way also. And they get energized by these situations, environments. Yeah.
But there are people
Mitch loves that.
Yeah. I know that.
Yeah.
But there are people who don't like that, who really need something structured and need to know how we're going to get from A to Z. How do those people fare, Beth?
At UnCabaret?
Yes.
Or in Mitch's?
Well, UnCabaret first.
Sometimes, that can be that's fine for them. I mean, we like to keep it mixed up. We wouldn't have too many of those people all one show. But, if they are telling a story and it's fresh and they know some people, I mean, we have a couple performers who really do move meticulously from beat to beat, and that can be fine. But we just wouldn't have too many. But everybody who's on UnCabaret might move meticulously from beat to beat, but will still play off the moment. We don't have too many people who are coming in and just, giving it word by word for what they knew.
Mitchie, is there anybody that you've worked with that you think to yourself, this would be a nightmare for them?
That's a funny question. I'd have to think about that. I've been really fortunate that I've got to work with such an eclectic range of people and talented people. And nobody, at the top of my head, I can't think of anyone that comes to mind.
See, what I love is that anytime I've worked with you, you seem to really be somebody who can go with whatever happens. And I think that the fact that you and Beth found each other is sort of a perfect chemistry situation, because I think you must feed off of that, the both of you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where do you want the show? Like, is there some place where it hasn't gone that you say, what would be great? Anything like that, Beth, that comes to mind for you?
Oh, I thought you were talking to Mitch. Yes. Well,
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that's been great about doing the Zooms has been, we've been wanting to do more, recorded. We did some episodes for Amazon that are on Amazon Prime that you can watch. And we've wanted to do more of that and haven't been able to find a home for that. So we would love to, what's great is to record long and then be able to edit. It gives people freedom. A lot of the ways that stand-up is done is like most things you see recorded comedy, every word has been vetted. You don't see any freshness. So I'd still love to do that, and that would be great. I'd still love to take some of the stories that we've heard and animate them. We haven't been able to do that yet.
Oh, wow. That's a great idea.
And I'm loving the Zooms, and I'd love to keep this talk show format going even once we have a live situation happening. Those are all things I'd love to do with UnCab that we haven't done yet.
How, since you've been doing, Mitchie, you guys have been doing these online. Is it Sundays?
Sundays.
Yes.
Right. And we actually have the ad for this week's show.
Oh, nice.
So people should definitely check it out. And they can also go to uncabaret.com and all the details are there. Mitch, but from doing these online, how do you think that's going to change when we get to go back into an audience, or will it?
Wow. I think a lot of performers, especially comedic performers, they feed off the audience laughter and energy, and they really miss that environment. So I think and musicians also, I think they can't wait till they can feel an audience. But I think in the meantime, all of us are, making lemonade out of the situation and having a great time and connection and so much fun, seeing people. I mean, here we are right now, and it's amazing.
Right. Go ahead, Beth.
Well, I was going to say, it's crazy. It looks like people are doing music together, and Mitch and I are in the same room when we're doing it. But, you can't really have musicians in 3 different places. There's minor delays. And I think it's hard. We have solo people playing solo, just whoever's in the room with them, or Sandra's done the show a few times and Mitch will make a recording that then she can use.
And
so it's
she
been
has it on her
challenging
end.
it's been a little challenging for music. It'll be nice to be able to play, and be in the same space again for sure.
At the same time, Beth, it's been a great time to be resourceful and collaborate. I was writing with Sandra this morning, who sends a shout out to you, Billy and Beth.
Hi, Sandra.
And, we were doing a FaceTime songwriting session. And in the past, we never did that because you didn't have to. But now there's more of an urgency, and I feel like people are connecting more in ways they didn't in the past also.
And it's also been great to be able to find, it's crazy, but we're getting people from Germany and England and, people, even across America and other parts of California, people who couldn't come to the shows are able to be part of it. We have people who are finding us, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and thousands of people are finding us that have never found us before, and that's for millions. I meant millions, and also people who have been part of UnCabaret for a long time and drifted away, and
have
people
rediscovered
who are able to, and then also people who are able to, that thing I've been telling you I've been going to for 10 years, you can come see it now and watching with your family. So that's totally great.
I think that's really, you've hit on something, which is that a lot of people, they are watching these things on their television, and they're actually, whomever they're quarantining with, they're all sitting together and watching these shows. So I always think to myself that somebody's looking at it on their phone or on their notebook or whatever, when in fact, I don't know how they're watching these things. And many friends of mine have been doing these shows, and whether they're sold tickets or they're free, they have groups of people that watch, and they hear back from them. Thank you for just giving us new content. Yes,
fresh, and they're in the moment. One thing, we've stayed on Zoom partly because I like that the audience can see each other.
Yes, it is great.
I like that people understand that they're part of a mosaic and that they're, connected, and it's not just sort of them on social media being still all by themselves.
Right.
I want to add something to that. What's fun for the audience too is you see a lot of the performers in the show, they'll crosstalk with each other.
Yeah.
You'll see their admiration for each other. And it's almost like an audience is in the green room backstage, where some of the funniest things do get said off stage, that performers in their conversations. And in the Zoom shows, the audience is privy to these moments, and it's amazing.
Well, it's kind of like what I said earlier about Beth and I, that at the backlot show that we all did, that you were on stage for the whole thing. Beth and I were by that back door, by the staircase.
I remember.
And we were, and all of the performers, it was us, it was Cheryl Vendetti, it was Lemaire, and some of the funniest things that I remember from that night were stuff we were saying to each other.
I'm sure it was.
And I also, just because we're mentioning that show, I will mention it was Irene Soderbergh's birthday a couple days ago.
Oh, wow.
And she was at that show. She's since passed away, but I think it was the last time when I went down and gave her the mic. I think it was the last time she sang in public.
Oh.
And
Wow.
what I thought to myself that, what was sort of, a spontaneous thing. She couldn't get up on the stage. And I went, oh, here's the mic, just sing something.
Yeah.
And but who would have thought that I would think to myself, that was the last time I was going to hear that.
Yeah.
And that we capture those moments. And by doing these things online, it's not a one-time thing. It is something that if there's magic there, people can revisit it.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't been posting on Cabaret. You do have to be there.
Well, all right. But you've got them.
I do have them. And we did make if people are curious, we made a fun sizzle reel and you can see what it is. And that's up on my Facebook page, all of our social media.
And it's on and I think I saw it on YouTube too.
Yeah.
So you've had a lot of great guests doing it online. And I think what's great about doing it online is that you basically have captive talent. Where are they going? They're home. They could say, I'm in New York, but that's fine. You can do it. Have you been able to get people that you typically wouldn't have gotten? Or is
just because they're not in town. So I mean, Sandra's been able to do it a couple of times from New York, which has been amazing. Aparna Nancherla, who is so funny on Twitter, and she's in New York. Alex Edelman, but he's been in LA, but when he was in Boston, we had him.
I know Cho is in San Francisco, but she's done it. She's done it a lot. She's Margaret in LA? Oh, all right.
Yeah. Isaac Mizrahi is going to join us for the first time in a couple of weeks.
Oh, wow.
That'll be different. I'm excited about that. We've had a lot of other new people. I'm trying to think. Jake Shears. That was super fun. He was in Virginia. Yeah. And that would have been, how's that going to happen? So that was great. So a lot of, I'm sure there's others I'm not thinking of, but.
And what's great is that once you get back to doing live shows, these people will want to come and do it with you live, hopefully.
Yes, but they'll be in Virginia. So I don't know. Wherever they are. I mean, it's great. I mean, it's funny. I really was like, this is the year we're going to tour. It's so hard to tour on Cabaret. And it's virtually impossible with schedules and the amount of money it takes to fly people everywhere. And it's not just how much talent can you pick up. I mean, it's really ridiculous. I don't know why it's in my crawl. Like, I want to tour on Cabaret. And we've toured a little bit. We have. But we are touring, it was not exactly how I imagined it, but it is a kind of tour because we are able to, we've had various other comedians from San Francisco and it's been super fun.
Is there a challenge to doing it this way for you, Mitch? Now let me ask Mitchie, because you were talking about the audience's reaction. So with Zoom, you're getting some of that. Like when I would tell a story, the guests, I can see them down at the bottom of the screen. So I can see somebody laughing. So I'm like, well, thank God somebody's laughing.
Yeah.
When you do it on Zoom, even if you don't hear them, you are seeing that response.
Well, we're not, because I'll let Mitch answer.
Mitchie, you answer.
You wanted to answer.
You could definitely see the response, and it's kind of funny. I'll be sitting at the piano playing, and my friends my phone is on silent, and they'll be texting me like, that was amazing. I love that. And so I feel like I'm getting enough interaction and to know how the audience is enjoying.
On the Zoom screen, you can I don't have it set up where I can watch everybody because it would be so distracting.
I would think so too.
Oh God, Bob isn't laughing at that. It's like, it's so like in your face. It's too much. So I don't really see that. And I'm so focused on the other performers when they're on, I just can't, really take everyone in. But for the other performers, I'm laughing, and that's just, and I just have to be able to this is in my heart and this is what I'm going to say. And I think it's funny and I think it's serious, and here I am. So it's community.
Do you feel that you've actually gotten something new out of it, doing it online, in terms of, enrichment that you're getting from it. I mean, obviously we focus on what we're not getting, which is the audience physically in the space and that immediate reaction. But I think there's got to be, Beth, for you, some sort of a upside in terms of either the exposure or the feedback you get after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, it's been well, for one thing, it's been creatively interesting to interpret UnCabaret for a new medium after this many years, to try to say, what's a successful Zoom show? What will be, what will make people come back show after show? What makes it urgent and what makes it uplifting? I want people to leave feeling better. So how do we do that on Zoom? And that's been creatively challenging and fun to succeed at. And it's been just great to have new people, new life come in. So both of those things have been wonderful.
Is there any other thing that you've either learned about yourself doing this that's like, oh, this just sort of unlocked this door for me?
Well, I did learn I'm correct. I do not like doing the tech. It's just like, there is this one weird thing where it's like before the show, and you're used to like doing shows in clubs and theaters where, there's a bunch of people setting everything up and it's fun and you're chatting. And the Zooms, just Mitch and I are like, plug in the Scarlett. And
how's my lighting?
Yeah,
right.
We do actually. We have an amazing, one thing is I believe so much in the team always. And we put together an amazing Zoom team. We have somebody who does the Zoom part, and she runs the show for us and is in charge of all the Zoom aspects. And then we have another person who is our audio person, and they do everything to make it sound. We did so much work in the first 4 shows to make the sound beautiful and not just okay. And finally, after 4 shows, somebody texted and said, "It's so good, I'm not real. It doesn't sound like Zoom." And that was a big. So that was, I like that. And for me, it's really about being willing to. I'm always torn. I want to make it funny, but I have things that I think are important to say about now. And how do I marry those two things? And it's been interesting staying on top of that. And it's a hard time to be in the now of. You can't. In the last show, there was that thing the Japanese were saying, we're going to open amusement parks, and when you go on the roller coaster, please scream inside your heart. Please keep your mouth shut. And that, and I got so many people who were like, I thought of you immediately when I read that. And I was like, who am I? That's a crazy thing for people to think of when they. Anyway, I talked about that, and that's real and funny, but also deep to me. And people are letting you into their living rooms. They're not looking for the most hilarious thing you've ever done right now. People are looking to stay connected and hopeful. And for me, I'm somebody, I think, who is both hopeful, and I can have that crazy voice in my head that is so despairing that this awful moment is going to go on forever. And the crazy voice, the crazy, the crazy, the crazy. So for me, it's been what I am trying to do is let the person who is that crazy voice be smaller, and the person who is the knows more be bigger.
Well, I think that's what you're providing. You are providing people a moment to get away from the craziness by watching your show, but
not get away, process the craziness, because there isn't really. Not to be. I don't know, not to be persnickety about it, but I think one of the things that is we have a lot of ways to get away from it. We can watch a million things that are escapist, but you end up feeling kind of like junk foody, empty afterwards, because you still have the heaviness of what is. So what I think the time calls
it's channeling the craziness, maybe
working with it and really trying to alchemize it.
When I started this, I actually started it due to Seth Rudetsky, who I know Mitch knows and Beth knows, who is doing 2 shows a day. God knows how he and his husband are doing it for the Actors Fund, Stars in the House. And thinking that this pandemic would last, maybe a month. So, okay,
Right.
we'll do 60
Yeah,
shows.
yeah.
And I sent him this email saying, God, these are so much fun. And I feel like I'm seeing my friends.
Yeah.
And he said, well, if you're enjoying them so much, why aren't you doing shows? And I said, oh, I'm tired. I'm watching. I'm not going to do anything. But I also think that as artists,
don't you find it energizes you?
Yes.
Doesn't it energize you? Doesn't it energize?
Not only does it energize me, it actually gives me a sense of normalcy. It gives me something to shoot for. Yeah. And it's like, okay, in 2 days, I've got this show. I can't then sit back and say, oh, thank God that's over, because there's another show in 2 more days. So you're constantly working as opposed to maybe having one project and then it's over. And I think, as I said at the beginning of the show, the only way I know what day it is because it's either Tuesday or Thursday. I'm doing this show.
Right.
And the people who have been watching it are like, I'm so glad to see some people who are either giving me hope or entertaining me or giving me information or recommending a book I should read. Who knows what they get out of it. Mitch, same question for you as a musician. Is there a positive side in doing it with this technology versus being public? Is there any plus?
Well, what's been amazing is in the live shows, we have a band playing together. And of course, on Zoom, the musicians, they can't play together because the latency,
the delay,
And so it's given us an opportunity to have our amazing musicians do a 70-minute solo or a miniature song or something and showcase their talents. Mm-hmm. And our audience really loves it. And they're building up their own fan base.
Yeah.
From
based
people,
on that.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have had that opportunity in the live show when we all play together. They don't get that much of a spotlight on them. And so it's been really nice to dive a little deeper that way.
I wonder if that's something that would change when you get back to live shows. Maybe if there will be a way to incorporate that into live.
I hope so. Yeah.
That I do think that there are pros, aside from recognizing, Beth, that you don't have any interest in technology whatsoever.
I mean, it's been, there are definitely, I think just what you said, it's been really nice to have them play. And I think also we've been able to expand our group, and we've been able to have regular, we've experimented a little bit with like having some more regularity from people. We have a couple of people, we have almost every show, just to give people a sense of like groundedness, and some things are just the same every week.
Is there a troupe that you really feel are the core of at least this incarnation of UnCabaret as it stands right now?
Well, of course.
I know Alec Mapa has been
Alec has been so creative, and he's brought some amazing different pieces, and then Alex Edelman also has been very regular. I think he's been every show also, and he's done some really fun things with the audience where he has the audience like show cans, and he tells like the story of the can, and he's done like
into his childhood bedroom.
Yes, he took us through his childhood bedroom. He was in Boston for a while.
See, another one. I'm in my childhood bedroom, but I got a green screen. I don't want
he showed us everything. He showed us everything.
His childhood fetishes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, but he's back in LA. And then Jamie Bridgers is our usually our closer, and she's in Pasadena, and she's there with her 21-year-old son, and she's in a red dining room, and it's very grounding at the end. We're actually going to start this week. We're doing a post-show, after show for Angel and VIP donors can come to Jamie's dining room post-show party, and she's going to host that, and that's going to be a way for people to have some more connection, and we're going to experiment with that. So that's a plus also.
And I know Julia Sweeney's been doing it.
Julia's super regular. She's done most of them as well. And that's been so much fun with her Elvis Presley lamp and her Mary Magdalene right behind her. And I feel like they're very present. They've been regulars, Elvis and Mary. They've been there for the whole show. And Julia's so great about telling like the ongoing story. She really is the ongoing story. And Jamie's daughter, Phoebe, Lapides has released her second album all during this, and it's she's Mitch. Would you say she's? It's amazing, right? It's like she's like
she's had amazing press, and she's a phenomena. And
so we've been hearing from Mom's point of view. Jamie's, Phoebe sort of floats through. She'll make an appearance one week, and she's performed with us. So yeah.
What I've noticed through this whole pandemic, and I've been doing, these shows, as I said, since the beginning, is that the people who are the more creative people, if they're positive and looking for ways to thrive, they are able to get through this. And the people who are sort of always feeling in a rut or feeling helpless, it's feeding into that. So I think it really sort of has magnified your tendencies, whatever those are.
Whatever they are, yeah. And I mean, I was thinking about Jamie, and right after you were saying that, and she's so family, it's so fun to have her son and then her daughter, and she's and it really does start to feel like, well, what's your family? I mean, this is a time when we're all having to shift and change. Like, you have to shift and change. So who is the family you're doing that with?
How has it changed, the two of you? You're living together, Mitchie. How has it changed your dynamic? Has it at all? Or is that the normalcy?
I feel really blessed that...
well, you have to say that. She's sitting right there.
Yeah. It's been wonderful.
Wait, hold on. Let me get rid of her. Okay, Beth, you're backstage. Now tell me the truth. Is she a nightmare?
She's amazing, and I feel really blessed. It's been great to have a partner and quarantine during this time with someone like that.
Oh,
I do have to do most of the cooking.
I'm sorry.
Not just somebody like me, but actually me.
Well, or somebody like you.
Or somebody
you
like
could
me.
Be replaced.
What's interesting is during this time, I think, Mitch, I think you'll agree, it's interesting because it's persistent, and probably other times something might come up and we could just sort of, there's enough distance where you still sort of let it go, and you don't necessarily have to evolve and change, and your relationship doesn't necessarily have to... You don't have to change within your relationship as much if you're not together as much. But I think we've both had to grow to be in quarantine together. You both have to become, there's a more sophisticated level of, what makes you uncomfortable or unhappy and why, and how is that your own business, and how are you going to evolve and change, and sharing issues. And it's been... it's a growth opportunity. It totally is. And it's been amazing to do it with Mitch. He's such a, big heart, and I love you, honey. You know that.
Well, let's just ask. So let's just follow that up. Beth, what is the one thing that you have learned about him during quarantine that you didn't know before?
He'd rather cook than have me cook. I knew that before.
That can't be news.
That's not news. I don't know if
Is there anything? Yeah, because I really think you're right. I think that when you're in this kind of a concentrated bubble, you are going to either discover new things about yourself or about the people that you're with.
I'll say what I discovered about myself. It's more, I don't know about it. It's Mitch's thing to say about himself, but I think as a person, I tend to want to be I'm producery, kind of bossy, and I like to figure out how things are going to get fixed. And or on the other end of the spectrum, I can be super cheerleadery. And there's a place in the middle that I think is a healthier place that I've tried to find that I don't always get to, where I'm not, just listening, just compassionate listening. And that's, I think, a more loving place, and not always my first response. Sometimes my first response is, how can I fix it? How can I fix it? I want to fix it.
Does that also then make you frustrated that this is a time where you can't fix it?
Personal growth. No, I mean, in some ways, yes, but in some ways, being in acceptance of that is a more beautiful place. I mean, when I'm able to do it and land in a heart space, which I can't always do, as Mitch will probably nod his head, but when I can, But when I can, and I can just listen, and I mean, it's with yourself too. I mean, when you're doing it with other people, it's the same practice as you have with yourself. If I notice something in myself, my first thing is, how can I fix it? Or, it's okay.
Sure.
But if I can just be in a place in myself where I'm listening to myself and in acceptance and loving it myself as I am, whether it's Mitch or myself, I mean, we're in relationship with ourselves first, then I'm very 100% imperfect, but there have been days when I've been able to go to the center of the heart place instead of the fixing place. And those are victories. That's for me.
It's funny.
That's my personal growth story.
It's funny when you said that, I was thinking of Mitch, our friend Jennifer Lewis, one of my best friends, and we talk pretty much, every couple days. And at the beginning of this, you're cheery with everyone and you're very hopeful and we're going to get through this. And, let me help you with this or whatever. And then I'll call her and I'm like, can we go there? She's like, we're fucked. I said, we're fucked. And you just sort of need to sort of wallow in it and laugh and say, the world's going to hell and it's all over. Okay, good. That's what I thought. Just wanted to make sure. So other than that, you're okay. I'm okay. And I find that you can't do that with everybody. There are people that if they hear some negativity about this, you're just feeding into, oh God, why did I even get out of bed?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I have to say, before this, sometimes Mitch would like to read the news very last thing, and I'd be like, "No news," at the end of the day, stop. And now I'm like, "What is it? What is it? What is it?" Tell me the latest. But right before, so change.
Mitch, what have you learned about either yourself or about Beth?
I think what I've learned about myself is I don't have so much fear right now of the situation. I know we're going to get through this. I know things won't go back to being normal, what we consider normal before. And I've learned I have some amazing relationships in my life. Some people have shown up in a way that I wouldn't have expected. And it's been great to show up for other people too and connect with people on a really deep level during this time.
Yeah, I'm sort of not exactly as hopeful as either of you. I kind of feel like I don't know what's good. The example I keep using with people is I remember going to Pompeii in Italy 5 years ago, and I remember seeing people, because they were covered in lava, like somebody was just making bread and the lava came, and one minute you're making bread and next minute you're engulfed in lava. Now, that didn't just happen overnight. There were signals that this was coming, and some people got out of there, and some, I'm going to stay and make my bread. And so I don't know which way this is. Is life going to be okay? Or is this the moment that one day you're making bread and then you're found in lava on the floor? Yeah. But either way, I'm a controlling person, and I'm very, again, like Beth, a little like producery, like I'll fix it. What can we do? Sort of letting that go and saying, I think we may be fucked, but there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm not carrying that. I'm still finding the joy in every day, but I'm kind of waiting for that shoe to drop. So yeah, you're getting, I'm sorry to bring you down.
No. I mean, you sort of have to look at it in the biggest cosmic perspective, because in some ways you have to say, well, maybe being covered with lava is unfolding in perfect and divine order in the course of all the universe that we have such a small perspective on. I mean, you have to constantly be doing the work of widening your perspective and going, well, for the whole of the universe, maybe humans ending is the best thing that can happen. I mean, you just have to open your mind to a bigger perspective of things being good.
And I think maybe because I'm a little bit insane, I can see the lava starting at the feet and just laughing, saying, isn't this the most ridiculous way to go?
Yeah.
I mean, that if you can look at something and say, I know this is tragic and I'm going to be dead in 60 seconds, but this is a great story if anybody finds out.
Yeah, but we have to try to hope that, I like what Mitch said, and we talk about this a lot. It's not going to, this is, I think, the discourse that has to change. We're never going back. People are still, you still hear people say, when we're back to, and, there was the before time and there's going to be an after time, but the after time we have to know in our hearts 100% that it's going to be different. I mean, when people talk about going back to live performing, I almost hate to have that conversation because it may not even ever happen, and it may be happening, but happening differently. So I don't know.
And as you were going to say something. Go ahead.
As Jennifer Lewis would say, get out there and vote. November.
I'm only wearing blue. I'm only wearing blue shirts from now until.
Oh, see, well, I've got purple, so I'm trying to embrace the red, I guess.
Yeah.
Jacob Suggs just wrote us. He wrote a comment. I think some people lose track of the fact that the main goal of quarantine is not to get sick. Every day that you're healthy is a successful day.
Is to not get sick. Yes, exactly.
Sick, yeah.
Just be alive at the end of it. That's
See, Jacob is a glass half full kind of guy.
Just be alive. Just try to be alive. Yeah.
We have gotten so many comments. Of Jacob also asked, is Beth still doing creative writing workshops? Are you doing them online?
I am. I just Tuesday started my second Zoom session, and it's full, and there'll be another one in the fall, October 6th. Yeah.
What else do you have coming up aside from you got the creative writing, you've got the UnCabaret? What else are you working on? I'm working on a top secret audio book project that I can't actually talk about until it's done, but I am doing a very large audiobook project, and it's I don't know when it will be done, but it's big and I'm doing it. And Mitch, what else? I think I'm doing something else, but I can't remember what it is. Well, Mitch, what are you doing? You're working with Sandra. You're writing songs. What else are you
writing songs? I'm working on a. Do you remember the pop band Erasure?
Of course.
You do. I'm working on a new musical, the Erasure musical, basically.
Oh, and using their catalog.
Using their catalog. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got a little tongue-tied there.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
And so
is it based on their story, or is it an original story with
an original story using their songs?
Oh, wow. That's great.
It's really fun. Yeah. Super fun.
And that will probably be online, I would say the end of November, early December.
Oh, wow. That's very exciting.
Yeah. So,
I'm also writing 2 scripts. Yeah, I remembered.
Oh, well, thank God you remembered. And what are they, things that you had wanted to do, or are they things you've been asked to do?
There 2. One is I'm writing it with somebody who wanted me to write it with her, and it's her thing that I was hired to write. And the other is something Jamie and I have been working on. There was a big piece about it in Variety, a big piece about Jamie and Phoebe in Variety a couple weeks ago, and that's something we've been developing for a while. So
I think that, oh God. Well, see, I think, as I said, I think creative people, in a way, not that I want to say thank God for COVID, but I think you can thrive in it.
Yeah. I mean, we're both at the end of every day. Sometimes, we sit down at dinner and it's like, oh my God, to just run through the projects and the clients. And it's like, oh, I'm too tired to cook. How about you?
Well, apparently he doesn't want you to cook. So
I know. I got a C- the other day. Chicken.
You're not grading her, Mitchie. Come on.
I graded myself. No.
Oh, all right. That's fine. I want to remind everybody that you have shows on Sundays. The UnCabaret show is at 7 Pacific. What time is it?
7:30 Pacific.
Well, all right. Whatever.
Very close. Come at 7 and get in the waiting room, and then go
have a drink.
Yeah, get ready at 7 o'clock to log on, and then you don't have to worry about it. We have one coming up this very Sunday on Zoom, and links are everywhere.
We have the ad is right there.
Yep.
And you people won't be able to see all of those little details that you
Abby McEnany. One of those people, by the way, is Abby McEnany, whose show is called Work in Progress. You might have seen on Showtime. And this is such a good show, and she's so much fun. She's a new person. we've been able to add, because
which is also
Chicago.
good because you're probably discovering new people as well.
Yeah. She's been, totally. And she's so much fun. She's back for the second time on Sunday.
So everybody who wants to watch, go to uncabaret.com, correct? Is that it?
That's almost it. You put a comma before the comma.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, very close.
Jesus, hold on. Now I'm going to fix it. That
was very producery. I'm sorry. That wasn't from my heart.
Jesus. I have to agree. I haven't tasted your food, but it's crap.
It is.
All right. There's a period.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I make a very good
there
steak.
We go. We're heckling even you. Guys, thank you so much for being on. It was so much fun. And Mitchie, of course, I know so well. I mean, I coveted and lusted after Mitchie for years.
Oh, wow.
And Beth, of course, I always admired, but I really had never sat down and talked to you up until that backlot night. And I said, "Oh my God, I love her.
No, I love you.
You're exactly what people think you are.
What you see is what you get."
Yeah. Well, I think that, and that is not always the case with comics, as you know.
True. I do. Well, thank you so much, Billy. It's so much fun to get to know you.
Thank you, sweeties. And both of you, take care. And don't forget, again, go to UnCabaret with a period.
Will you join us on Sunday night? Will you come see the show?
I will. I've seen a couple of them.
So you have good. Yeah. Have a watch party. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
And I'll bring my own drinks.
Yes.
Oh, good.
No 2-drink cover at UnCabaret.
No. Thanks,
guys. Thank you both for being on. Bye-bye. Oh my God, I just took myself out. And thank you everybody for watching Billy Masters Live. As I said, Tuesday, we will have Brandon and James. I don't know. Somebody's got a cello, somebody's singing. I don't know. We'll figure it out. And Friday, we will have next Thursday, we will have Jerry Mitchell. I'm now hearing thunder and lightning, which means my dog is going to run in here scared to death. So we have to go. So everyone, please have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. Wear a mask. Don't tell somebody to put on a mask in their car unless you want to get shot. That's it. I'm Billy Masters. Thanks for watching Billy Masters Live. Just remember, if we're here, we're live. Bye-bye. God bless.